Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast, your safe haven for self-discovery, growth, and transformation. I'm Barbara Thompson, your host. I'm a therapist and the founder of Self-Care Studio. Whether you're joining me from my private counselling sessions, my courses, or right here on this podcast, I'm dedicated to helping you reconnect with yourself and live life authentically. This podcast is your reminder to pause, reflect, and reclaim your power. Together we'll explore the messy, beautiful journey of life, from letting go of people-pleasing and overthinking to embracing your worth and stepping boldly into your true self. Here, you're not just a listener, you're part of a community that values self-trust, self-love, and living life on your terms. So whether you're navigating challenges, seeking clarity, or simply craving a dose of inspiration, you've come to the right place. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me. Let's dive into today's episode and continue this journey together. Hi everyone, today we're going to dive into empowerment, self-trust, and owning who you are. And I have the perfect guest to explore this with. So if you haven't seen already in the title, it is empowerment and self-trust. And I know being older, this sits a lot better with me, empowerment and self-trust. When I was younger, especially in my 20s and 30s, I didn't trust myself. I always looked to other people. What do they think? Am I okay? Am I liked? Am I doing the right thing? If I'm being really honest with you for a second, and with my guest Rachael today, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think I trusted myself until I was in my 40s, but that's because of the inner work I've done on myself too. So isn't it fascinating that we're born with this intuition, we're born with this self-trust, and I personally didn't find that until I was older. And it's kind of a little bit sad, but I think this episode today, if you've clicked on this, you're intrigued or you're curious about empowerment is spoken a lot about, but I think the self-trust too, like really having your own back and finding out who you are is like the cornerstone of everything. If you don't know who you are and you can't trust yourself, like it makes life really difficult. So I want to welcome my guest today, Rachael Day, to my podcast. Hi, how are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm looking forward to this chat, and let's just dive straight in, and I would love you to share a little bit about who you are and your story that relates to our episode today.
Yeah, so I'm an empowerment coach for women in business, ambitious women, career-driven women, and I basically found myself last year and for basically a year and a half before just really not loving my job. I used to work in media and I fell into that out of uni, which I did a marketing degree and I felt like media is related to marketing, right? And so I did that and I loved it at first. But as I went on, and especially as we went through COVID, I had some big personal things happen in my life. My parents split up, and after all of that, I just started getting really burnt out and really stressed. I was super anxious all the time. And working in media is not a good job for that. Like, you can feel so overworked, you have really hard deadlines, and you have a lot of pressure on you. People are wanting things from you all the time. I was a massive people pleaser. I really cared what people thought about me. I was very much in that fear of judgment. I never even really posted much on social media. I was terrible at doing that. So when I decided that I wanted to start my own business, that was like a huge hurdle that I had to overcome as well, because I felt like I was afraid what people were going to think of me. And even you would think about people from school, like 10 years ago. I'm like, I didn't even talk to those people. Why do I care what they think about me? And so, yeah, I feel like when I decided that I wanted to become a coach, I was really trying to work out who I wanted to be working with, how I wanted them to feel. And it took me a while, but I finally landed on empowerment coach because I realized that the things that I loved in my media career was actually having those one-on-ones with my juniors in the team to help them and make them feel like they could come to me and that I could help them solve a problem and that they would learn and grow. And I just loved that feeling of helping them grow into better humans and to be better at their job. And so I kind of feel like empowerment coach really naturally fell into that because I was like, yeah, I actually just love lifting women up and I love helping them work out what they want to do and to feel more confident and just to love themselves more and to have those amazing connections with people. I think empowerment is such a just a powerful word, and it also goes into like where I see myself and where I want to be. It's kind of almost like me stepping into my future self by being an empowerment coach because I'm like, yes, like because I want to be more confident and I want to have agency and power over my own decisions and who I want to be and my actions and my goals. Like I feel like I finally have like so many dreams and aspirations that are so much bigger than myself. And when I worked in media, I didn't have that. People used to ask me, what is your 5-year goal? And I was like, I actually don't know. Like, I don't know where I want to be. I was like, I don't think that media will be my forever, but I actually have no idea what I want and where my life is going. And I finally, now that I'm stepping into this, I'm like, I feel like I have these huge, big goals and dreams and that I can actually get there. So that's really exciting.
That's so beautiful. I can see the passion in you and I can see how uplifting this makes you feel talking about it. It's really special. And it's
Yeah.
nice that you get to pass this on to other people because if people haven't felt what you're feeling right now, life can be really difficult. When you're
Yeah.
working in a role like media where there's so many deadlines and it's so superficial, it's people working for other people and you're fulfilling someone else's dream, you're not fulfilling your dream. And you
Yeah.
can, and we're all replaced. And isn't it interesting that when we work in a job where we think we work so hard, and I've been someone that's done this too in the media marketing field, you work so hard and you're really good at what you do, but we don't realize that I can leave the next day and they'll just replace you like that. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's like interesting that when they ask you what your 5-year goal is or plan, very common in a corporate type world or that environment, that you're like, oh, I don't know. And look how far you've come, that you're
Mm,
excited, you know where you're going and you've stepped into yourself. Can I
yeah.
ask anyone listening, like the timeline from when you left media to where you are now? What kind of time frame are we for yourself? Are we
Mm.
looking
Yeah, so I spent about a year not loving where I was in my media role. I was working in agencies with clients, and I finally quit that job. It took me so long because I loved the people that I worked with. It had nothing to do with the people. It really had just everything to do with how I was feeling internally. I felt like I was constantly thinking about work and that like bled into all of the other areas of my life as well. And after that, I actually ended up getting another job in media last year. So I decided to change to sales because I was like, maybe it's not media, maybe it's agency. And I changed over to the sales side of things. And I spent the first couple months like totally fine in that job because I was learning so many new things and you're trying to take on so much new information, learning about people and learning about how the company works and about the product. And but after that kind of initial stage wore off, I was like, no, I'm just still not happy here. And so that was kind of where I was like, yeah, it's definitely media. And even though I spent about 8 months in that job last year, and I started my business while I was in that job. So I started my business in July last year, and so I've kind of been doing that ever since. So we're in March now, so like
at?
9 months.
Reason why I asked you that question is sometimes a lot of people will hear when they are in a place where you're describing, like you're going to your job, the job's all you think about, you're worried about what people think of you, you don't really know where you're going. It can feel so consuming that you think of any change or anything not feeling like this would take such a long time. So I got a feeling that to anyone saying a year or a year and a half, oh my God, that's a long time. But I want people to think of how you're feeling now. You've probably been feeling like that for a long time. So when you look at it, I mean, we're already in March. This
Yeah,
year's just gone quick.
I
So
know.
when you make a decision, it doesn't feel as long. So that's what I wanted to highlight is, you're such a beautiful example of someone that is like, gonna get out of your comfort zone. You did the thing, and now where you are, where you're blossoming and doing so well, and you know who you are in that space. It doesn't take as long as what we think it does. This work it's ongoing. It's when we're learning about ourselves, it's something that we do until the day we're not here anymore. And that's
Yeah,
something I want to highlight too. It's not just you get the thing or get to a place where you're like, oh, I know who I am. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. When I said to my therapist once, I was like, oh, so when does this I was waiting for like the golden ticket, or I was waiting for like a gold star. I actually said that to her. I was like, when do I get to that thing where I'm like, oh, I'm there and I'm really good and I don't have, and she said, never. And I went, bullshit. And she's like, no, Barbara, this is ongoing. And I remember going, well, why did I start there? Like, I did remember feeling quite deflated. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I have to do this for the rest of my life.
yeah.
But it's so much better on this side. I know the younger me doing all that stuff, I was feeling exactly how you were feeling in your job. It took over my life, all those thoughts, worrying about what people I knew 10 years ago would think of me. I had those exact same thoughts too. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight it's not as long as what you think it is.
Yeah, and you know what? Mine, like it can be shorter. Like not making a decision is a decision,
Mm.
like staying stuck and where you are, like that is still you making a decision to stay stuck and not change anything. And it took me a year to realize that in my job. I went home every single day looking at LinkedIn jobs, thinking about, do I want to stay? What would I do if I wasn't in media? And I felt like it was hard for me to quit because I didn't know what I wanted to do instead. And I felt like I just had a very limited view of what I could do. And I was worried about what people would think. Like, what would I even say if I was quitting? I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know it's not this, And because I had that people pleaser side of me, I really didn't I didn't want to disappoint them. And I knew I was good at that job. And I knew that I was working with really awesome people. It made the decision so much harder. But that was me like staying stuck for a year and not doing anything about it. It absolutely can be so much faster. If you realize like, I don't want to be here, I don't know where I want to be, but I know that it's not here. Like you can even just make small changes. Maybe you don't want to make the change that's I'm quitting my job now because, we need money, we need to live. But maybe there's like something that you can do that it's like bringing more of something else that you love into your life so that it just makes it less less challenging and less overwhelming, because I think that that was something that I didn't have and I just spent way too long mulling over this decision and having that overthinking tendency and just, constantly going round and round in my head, not making a choice until I got to the point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I would rather anything else. And that was when I quit, was because I was like, I just would rather do nothing than do this.
Yeah, but you know what I'm hearing is that even you said, oh, it took too long, or I was stuck in that year and I didn't make a choice. I was hearing that you were making a choice. You're
Mm.
making a choice to stay where you were,
Yeah.
even though you didn't like it. And I'm looking for a solution. So there's a lot of people that would just jump from job to job to job, but you stayed in that and were like, okay, I know it's not my. So you were making a really wise choice. And all of us have different thresholds. All of
Yeah.
us have different. The more we get uncomfortable, the more comfortable we are with being uncomfortable. If
Yes.
everyone's following me. So,
Totally.
and the thing is, all of us human beings want certainty. All of us hate uncertainty, but you know what? None of us know what's happening tomorrow. So when
No.
we kind of put that into perspective, it's kind of like, well, we can be control freaks all we want, or we can, but you can't, because you
Yeah.
can't control things.
You're so right. Because I used to be like I used to identify as a control freak. Like I used to just want to control absolutely everything. And I think it's why I wanted to be really sure of my decision
Yeah.
before I quit. Because I also part of the reason I held on that long was because I was like, maybe it's just a phase. Maybe I'm just going through this time is hard now, but I'm going to come out of it. And I didn't want to give up on a career that I had worked hard for. If
Yeah.
if actually I was just going through a few hard months. And so I needed to be sure that it wasn't just me being like, yeah, this is like hard right now, so I'm just going to quit at the first sign of it being hard. I needed to know that actually, no, you have now spent a whole year feeling like this is wrong and trying to, you know, put a, like, what's the saying? Like, put a square
Yeah.
pea in a
So,
hole,
round
like,
up.
no,
Yeah.
and just trying to force it. And I mean, I said before, like, even though because I told them when I resigned, I was like, I don't think that media is for me. And then I turned around and was like, I got a sales job in media, and I felt guilty for that. I felt like, oh, I feel like I've just gone back on what I've said to them. And, saying that I don't feel like media is right for me. And then I've turned around and been like, actually, no, I got another media job. But I am really glad that I did that because I would have always wondered, what if?
Yeah.
And instead, I was able to confidently say at the end of all of it, I tried everything and it just wasn't right for me anymore. And that was what gave me like that certainty to know, that this isn't it. So what is? And it really opened up that space. Like even the relief that I got after I quit that first agency job, like I was like, wow, like my brain is clear now. I can actually think about the future. I didn't realize how much mental capacity and mental space that it was taking up in my mind before I finally kind of gave that up and was like, oh, now I can think about what's to come and like what I actually want. And sometimes you have to let go of something in order to open up the opportunities for the next things to come. And I couldn't get I had a 2 month notice period for that job, which is part of the reason that I was, so anxious about leaving. And what was like a considerable point of me being like, do I quit before I get a job? But then I don't have the safety net of knowing that I definitely have a job. But as soon as I quit that job, I had this other one come up like that week. And then I like went through that process. So it was me opening up that space, opening up the mental space for me to actually make a decision about what I wanted to do. So it kind of seems counterintuitive sometimes, but sometimes you do actually have to let go of that thing first, and then the opportunity can come because you've allowed the space for it.
Yeah. Didn't I hear earlier on in the conversation that your parents split up? That was recent as well. They had split up when you're
Yeah,
going.
that was during COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still something that you would have been processing when you were going through this. So that's what I'm highlighting is our own personal stuff in our life and our career and what we choose to do are very intertwined. Everyone's like, oh, they're
Yeah.
sort of separate, but it's affecting us
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, all the things. So that's what I was hearing as well as I think back in the background of your mind, even though you're like, oh, that was a couple of years ago or whatever, it's still a really big shift in your life and it's still a really big change, no matter how old you are, whether you're 5 or 50 when your parents split up,
It's a
it
lot.
affects us. It affects
Yeah.
all sorts of things. So I just want to acknowledge that I think that you did everything your way, which is always the right way. There's no right way in life to do any of these things. But what I'm hearing is that you looked at all your avenues and you made a really good decision, and that's why you're owning your own power now, is you did it your way. And it's always easy to reflect back, oh, I should have done this, or it should have been quicker. No, you did it.
Yeah.
It
I
was
know it's always like,
exactly
oh, in
right.
hindsight. But yeah, and you're so right as well, because the year that I decided to quit that job, we were actually selling our childhood home, like
Wow.
after the divorce. And so, like, they had agreed to have 2 years left in the house, and then, like, for my mum to live there, and then they were going to sell it. So that year was the year that they were selling the house. And that hit me so much harder than I realized. And I remember this, can't even believe I'm sharing this, but I remember I went over to the house, like just by myself to have a look, and I just burst into tears because I was like, I can't believe that we're getting rid of this house. Like we built it as a family. And I was so sad by it. but it was just, I remember I was talking to my managers about it, and they were like, wait, this is a really hard thing that you're going through. No wonder you're also struggling with work and things.
Yeah.
Sorry. And I hadn't even realized that that would have affected me in that way. So it's like when you're talking about this, I'm like, yeah, I even had that fed back to me at the time that I was going through these hard things in my personal life that also would have bled into my work. And it was part of the reason that I had to be sure, because I did have all of these other things going on. Is this work or is this just in general? Because when my parents first split up, the months after that, I that was the first time that I got anxiety. I had depression. I saw a psychologist for the first time. So that was really when things like started going downhill in my media career was, yeah, when I was getting burnt out because I had so many other feelings that I'd literally never felt before and so much to process. But after having years of that and the extreme feelings that I had about like work specifically and the fact that all of my thoughts were around work and leaving work, I was like, yeah, it is work. Like that is my problem now. But yeah, it takes time to sort through all of those feelings and to understand where you're coming from and also to make sure that you're not making a rash decision because of something else that has maybe affected that, but then it's actually not the problem.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think a lot
Thank you.
of people can relate to that. And what I want to highlight is, I mean, I'm a therapist, and I think this is the biggest thing that I can give to anyone listening to this is we discount we discount the small things in life. So when
Mm,
people come and see me for relationship counseling or for therapy for themselves, it's all the little things. They're actually not little things, but we deem them as a society or as a human. Oh, it's no big deal. That doesn't matter. Oh, it's just a home, just bricks, and doesn't matter if it's getting sold. I'm an adult now, so it shouldn't really affect me. Just things along the way, and we just kind of collect them and collect them and collect them. And what happens is the little things do matter. We need to take the time to look at each thing and be like, okay, even if we just look at it, talk through it, and then just let it go, we're still processing it, but we'll
mm.
just leave it. And hot tip, they never go. We've actually got to process something because you'll just stack it up. It's just going to sit there parked up waiting. And it will
Yeah.
rear its head one day when we have a breakdown or we suffer anxiety for the first time. It's not the thing that's just happened most of the time. We have to kind of go back to, it's this, 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 this. Does that make sense? My clients go, oh my God, I thought it was this thing. Because the thing at the end, which blows up, which makes us feel depressed or anxious or out of control or like, I can't do this anymore. That's the tipping point. But
Mm.
usually it's been under the surface for a really long time and that's attached to something. So that's why we need coaches. We need people to help us through this stuff because we need someone outside us to do it.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that because I know it will resonate with so many people of like, oh my gosh, I just went to my childhood home. And anyone listening to this right now, we've all got a child, some form of a home that's mean something to us as a child, or it might be a special address we had for, doesn't matter the time frame, but we have somewhere that was a home for us, and there's so much meaning tied to that. There's so much feeling, so much emotions, and yeah. So yeah, how powerful is it? Thank you. I know a lot of people will resonate with that. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, what's a piece of advice that you live by today, but once you struggled to believe?
I've got two because I feel like I have grown so much, even in just this last year, really. But the first one would be it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of you. And it's so cliche. And I feel like people say it all the time, but genuinely, I feel like I said at the beginning of this episode, I used to care what people from school thought about me, and I literally haven't spoken to them
Yeah.
in over 10 years. And even there are people that are closer to you that you're obviously going to care more about their opinion and things. But ultimately, it matters what feels right for you. And no one else has to live your life. Like you're the one that has to live it. So I feel like I used to always just do what I thought I should do or what people expected of me. And it's even part of the reason that I got into media in the first place was because I did like a Bachelor of Business. And I feel like, my parents were both accountants. And so I kind of naturally went into that more business space just because that was what I kind of knew. And I just felt like that's what I should do. And that was the expectation of me. Like I actually originally got into a communications degree, and that was what I had signed up for at UTS. And then my parents were like, oh, why don't you do a Bachelor of Business? Because you'll probably get some of that communication stuff, but you'll also get this business knowledge. And that's probably going to serve you like a lot more down the line. And I switched to Bachelor of Business before I even started, And I'm so glad that I have that knowledge now. I have my own business and everything, but it was the right thing for me to do. But I've always been so influenced by others' opinions. And even now, I really have to step back sometimes and be like, what do you actually want? What do you actually think? Because everybody's opinion is online now, and you hear so much of what other people think and what they feel and what you should be doing. And this is the best way to do this. And I just bought into so much of that. And I feel like I have been very influenced by other people's opinions and ways of doing things. And I have to just remind myself sometimes and like actually come back to me and be like, what do I actually think? What do I actually feel? Because it doesn't really matter what any of those people think. It only matters what is right for you and the way that you want to be doing things and the life that you want to be living. So I know it's easier said than done, but it's so important to do that work to get rid of that fear of judgment of others because it actually doesn't matter. Like it only matters what you think. And maybe there's a few select people that you do care about their opinion, but you have to be selective about those people because if you choose the wrong people to take on their advice and to take on their opinions, then you end up doing things that just don't align with you and that you don't enjoy. And before you know it, you're going down that path where you're feeling stuck and you're like, why does my life look like this? And it's because you just kept taking on the opinions and suggestions of people that it didn't actually matter and it didn't align with what you wanted in the first place. So that would definitely be my first piece of advice because I feel like people used to say that to me and I didn't fully believe it. I was like, it does matter what people think, but no, it actually doesn't. And my other one would be that life begins when you step outside your comfort zone because I was very much an in your comfort zone person for pretty much my whole life. I would say really only when I've started to have my business and everything that I have truly stepped out of my comfort zone. I did go on exchange in uni, and so like that was a big thing that I did that was outside of my comfort zone living overseas. But other than that, I very like because I was that people pleaser person, I wanted to be in control of everything. I was very much in that bubble of what I was happy with and like what I knew and because I wanted things to be certain. And it just can't always be like that. And in the last year, I have just gotten so comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's honestly the only way to grow. I have just grown exponentially since I started doing things out of my comfort zone. I did a photo shoot last year with my cousin that I would have never done. Yeah, I was in my bra and undies, which I have never done anything like that before. But as soon as I saw it, because she did like a bit of a call out, as soon as she like I saw it, I was like, I have to do that. Even though that makes me so uncomfortable, I can't even believe that I would do that because she owns the Self-Love Bible, and I think it's like 40 something thousand followers she has on there, and her Instagram has like 800,000 followers. So I was like, that is so many people that have a potential to see this content,
It's a lot of
but
people. Yeah.
it's a lot of people. But I was like, if it scares you, you should say yes because it just it will just change you. You start developing these beliefs about yourself that I can do hard things. Like I can thrive on the other side. And it builds that self-trust in yourself as well because you just keep backing yourself that you know it's going to be okay and that you can do these things and come out on the other side, regardless of whether it works or not. You know,
Mm.
it's like there are things that I've put myself out therefore that haven't come back and like that's totally fine as well. But it's like I actually don't even feel bad about that. I'm like I'm actually proud of myself that I just put myself out of my comfort zone and signed up for that thing and even though it didn't work out, it doesn't matter. Whereas before, that would have meant something about me. You know, I would have made this story that, oh, you know, they don't like me, I'm not good enough. But if you're not developing those stories about yourself and you just take the facts, it's like, nah, just wasn't right for this time because another opportunity is going to come up that's even better for me. So, yeah, I definitely think putting yourself out of your comfort zone, having the courage to do that, that is just such a huge thing that I advocate for.
Right, great advice. I reframe it when I do something and I get nothing back, or I launch something and it doesn't take off or whatever. I just go, oh, that wasn't for me. That just wasn't me. No, so it's just that wasn't for me. That person wasn't meant for me. And you just carry on because you
Yeah.
don't have any personal attachment rather than, okay. So this kind of relates to the biggest barriers that I'm going to go and ask you now that I think, when we're talking about the biggest barriers that hold people back from feeling empowered,
Mm.
I think it could be self-doubt, fear, people pleasing, limiting beliefs. In your experience, like, is that what you've noticed of what the biggest barriers would be?
Yeah, definitely. People, I think a lot of the time, when you have those fears of doing things, of having judgment, there's this thing it's called approval addiction. And it's basically that fear of having like the approval of others. And people pleasing comes under that, like fear of judgment, fear of being seen. And there are about 10 of them, but it really feeds into that narrative of that you're not good enough and that it doesn't matter what. Let me think about how to rephrase this. It's like left my mind just then.
It'll come back.
It'll come back. But yeah, definitely I would say that that is what I mostly see because people just they allow fear to control their lives and we develop these limiting beliefs about ourselves that we're not worthy, we're not good enough. Why would they say yes to me? Why me? Why would they want anything to do with me instead of why not me? You know, it's like there's always that negative connotation that's behind things, and having that people pleasing state as well. If you're constantly trying to please others, you're not actually thinking about what's right for yourself. And that's a very disempowering place. And even if you're thinking and you have like that self-doubt that you're not capable, you can't do it, it's not going to happen for you. Like, I'm not even going to try because it's probably not going to happen anyway. You're just not taking control of your life in any way. And even if you start to come from a place of like blaming others for the situation that you're in and not taking responsibility, that's a very disempowering place because you are actually saying other people are in control of my life. And it's so important to bring that back and to take 100% responsibility for where you're currently at, for the choices that you make, for the actions that you're taking, because all of a sudden you're in a way more empowered place to say, hey, I am in control. Like I have the power to change this situation and to change how I feel about this, to change how, you know, other people view me. And you can't really like you can't fully control like other people, you know, like that's just not possible, but you can control like how you react to a situation, and that can also change people's perceptions of you. It's taking those little actions, it's building that self-trust, because if you are constantly coming from a place that you can't do things, you're afraid of what people are going to think of you, or you're afraid that you're not going to be able to do it, it's just it's giving you like that powerless feeling. And when you're powerless, like you don't have confidence, you're feeling like very disempowered to like have to make any kind of change in your life. So I think, and when we're building those stories about ourselves, that's feeding into your limiting beliefs that like maybe the words that you're using around it as well, like I'm not a speaker. I can't talk in front of people. I can't speak up. I can't I can't get into healthy relationships. Like if you're constantly using this language where you're putting yourself down and you're developing these beliefs about yourself, then that's what you're going to keep getting until you turn around and say, I'm not a confident speaker yet. And like change up your language, it's really, I want to be in healthy relationships rather than I can't get out of toxic relationships because your brain is just going to keep bringing you what you focus on. And the more that we can focus on those empowering feelings, like that's how we can lift up that empowerment and the barriers can start to fall away a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So that's all. I love hearing all that. And I think everyone will be like, yep, okay, yep, I understand that. That all makes sense because it all does. But is there a time when you felt disempowered? And can you share with us how you shifted out of it? Because I think with all that knowledge you've just given us is all great. And people go, oh, yeah, of course, my words affect how I feel and how I think and how I behave. Got that. But putting it into action is something a little different. So is there anything on top of mind that you've got that you feel comfortable in sharing today?
Yeah, which one do I want to talk about? I have a few different examples.
Good.
Okay, so I've got a career example and I've got a relationship example.
Okay.
So in my first media job, I was working really, really hard. And that was the job that I was in when we were in COVID. So we just had so much to do. Like I was working at home, I was working till like 8 p.m. every day. Because I didn't really have anywhere to go. So, I just kept working, kept doing things. And I remember, you get kind of like a year and a half into being at like your certain level and you're like, I want a promotion, I feel like I'm ready. And I remember when I was approaching my managers about that, I felt like I was really ready. And from everything that I'd spoken about with like my direct manager, it made sense that I could kind of move up to like that next like junior level. And I remember just feeling like I'd completely hit this glass ceiling. Like when I spoke to my higher boss, she was like, oh, like there are these other things that you could be doing before. It was basically like, I want you to be doing like your manager's job before we give you this junior job that's like underneath her. And I remember just feeling so like, what do I have to do? There was this one thing, they wanted me to be having the hard conversations with clients. And I was like, well, my manager actually does that. Like, that's actually the manager's job, and that's who they want to be speaking to. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do that. And then it felt like, how am I even going to get this promotion when my manager is there? you know? And it, I just felt like I was coming from this place of just having no power in the situation, and all I could do, like, I mean, really, like I had to take back the responsibility to be, okay, well, what are the things that I can be doing that she's mentioned that I can get to that point of getting the promotion? Because I was already, like, in my eyes, like I was already doing that job above, but it was like they wanted to be seeing like even more of me to like really show that I was like ready for that position. So I feel like I started off feeling very just low about it, I guess, is like a good word. Like I felt like I, it was just really hard to break through. Like I was being asked to do so much, like just to get to that next level. Um, and I think that for me, like I really just had to bring that back and just be like, okay, well, like I just have to do what they say because like they're the ones who are going to give me a promotion. And so I just have to do what I can and I have to be really proactive. And it was all about like the actions and the choices and the decisions that I was making in that job in order for me to get to that more empowered place to finally like get that promotion. So yeah, it was like a tough situation. It took a little bit, but it was once I got the promotion though, it was good. But I actually left not that long after that.
Well, you got it, so that's all that matters.
I got it.
Good job.
And my other one was actually my fear of getting into a relationship. So I wasn't in my first relationship until I was 25. And I feel like I had just so many things go wrong, like all throughout. Like literally since I was 5, I had like a kindergarten boyfriend, and we used to just hang out all the time and we'd go to the RSL and dance, and it was just so cute. I was like, my
A
cute
little old soul couple going to the
my
RSL.
cute little kindergarten relationship. But when we were in class one day, one of the kids made fun of us and like got the whole class to join in. And it was like that KISSING song, you know. And
Yep.
I was very I like after that, like we just didn't really speak anymore. Like my little kindy boyfriend, like we were so embarrassed from that, and that developed like a deep shame for getting into relationships. Like I always had this feeling like it's embarrassing to be into like in a relationship. And so for 20 years after that, just I wanted to be in a relationship, but I knew that if I was given the opportunity, I wouldn't take it. You know, like that I would turn it down like, no, 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 no. And so I was just really like afraid of all of that stuff. And it was letting that fear completely control my life around like intimate relationships. Like after that, I literally didn't have another boyfriend till I was 25. And even that, like I just really like kept my walls up. I kept barriers like with everyone. Like I didn't even like I'm not a casual person. Like if I was going to be in a relationship, it would be like an actual relationship. And so I literally just removed myself from like any situation where anything could possibly happen. And I just I felt so powerless because I didn't know how to change it. And I constantly felt like I just couldn't overcome this hurdle of being in a relationship. And it was I actually ended up in a relationship who I'm still with, like my dance partner. I was doing ballroom dancing, and I was friends with him for about 2 years before we got into a relationship. And it was because I finally felt like so comfortable with someone. But even when we had that conversation, I felt sick. Like I was so anxious. We had yeah, and we had this conversation at like 3:30 in the morning. It was just crazy. And because I like when he told me how he felt, I was like, you know, like my walls are just like so far up. But I had been thinking about this as well, but I hadn't fully worked out how I felt. I was like, do I feel like this? Do I not? You know, and I was just overthinking it constantly. And I took the day after to think about it because he was like, you know, you don't have to make any decisions now. I told him about like my fear of relationships and everything. And like he was so nice about it. And he was like, take as much time as you need. And I spent the whole next day thinking about it and being so anxious. And it was a work day as well. I was like, I didn't barely get any work done because I was just thinking about this. And I was like, no, I can't even take a long time to make this decision because if I do, I'm just going to constantly be thinking about it and it's consuming me. And when I was doing it, this was actually probably one of the first things that I was like, even though it scares you, you should say yes. Because I felt like I had always been shying away from it, making these just pulling myself out of any situation where it could even be a possibility. I didn't want the opportunity. But when the opportunity did present itself to me, I was like, okay, you need to take responsibility for this. You can work through this and you can work through it together. Like, it doesn't have to be you by yourself. And I think that put me in a way better position to make it. But I had never even voiced those kind of feelings to anyone before because it was so hard and it was so new for me. And yeah, so I definitely used to feel controlled by my fear in that way. And it takes the power away from you because you're like, I'm not even gonna make the decision that's right for me because I'm afraid. And I didn't want to let this opportunity pass by because of my fear. And that's exactly how I feel with any fear that I have in my life or that I see that's like controlling others. I'm like, no, don't let it control your life because like you only get one life and you don't want to get to the end and be like, oh man, like I wish that I didn't let that person's opinion like steer me from doing this thing that I was actually really excited about, or I wish that I didn't let that fear of relationships mean that I didn't chase after this person that I really really liked. And yeah, so I'm really glad that I did that because I was beginning to wonder if I would ever be in a relationship.
I'm glad that you took that. They call it a leap of faith, and I'm really glad you took that. Isn't it interesting that the flip side of this is we can say we work to a place, and it is possible because we're both examples of this, of not giving a shit about what people think of us. Like, that's true. We don't. But isn't it interesting on the other side how words can affect us? How one time, one moment, that moment in kindy with that song was with you for 20 years. How
Yeah,
I remember some comments of what some guys have said to me, I still remember 20, 30 years on. It never, so that's what I mean is, yeah, we don't care. You can get to a place where, you know, you work hard that it doesn't, no, people's words don't matter. People's opinions don't matter. But when we're not in that frame mind and we really do care, they matter a lot because look at how they can affect us. They can
yeah.
change our whole life. So we were all on that journey with you. We're all sitting here in our seats listening to this, hoping that there was someone and there's someone and that you said yes.
Yeah, we've been together for over 2.5 years now. So.
Yay! Good that you deserve it. That's fantastic. Good. What a great example of moving through from disempowered to getting shifting out of that. So great, great relatable example. So thank you for that. I want to move to something totally different now. We're just going to step into a different area of this and what you do and help your clients. I want to talk about hypnosis. How did this help you and how do you use this today with your clients?
Yeah, so I love hypnosis, as you know. I feel like we've spoken about it a lot. So last year when I did hypnosis, I had no idea what it was going to be. And in fact, I remember I knew that I was going to be hypnotizing people, but for some reason just completely forgot about the fact that I would also be hypnotized. Like it really didn't cross my mind at all. And obviously when I got into the classroom, it was like, oh wait, no, like I hypnotize you, you hypnotize me. And by finding out, because hypnosis is a process of going from one state to another. So you don't actually feel hypnotized, but there are different things that you can do that actually, I guess, proves to you that you are.
Mhm.
And when I went through this process, I did 3 days of hypnosis, and then 4 days later, I did another 6 days. So I did about 9 days of hypnosis in under 2 weeks. And that was full on. But I remember there was like distinctly, there was this time that I can't remember if I was walking to or from my, like, to or from, I think I was walking to the train station to actually go to training. And I realized that I had no thoughts. Like, I just realized that my brain was quiet. And I have been a chronic overthinker, like for my whole life. And obviously, as we were discussing before, how much I was thinking about my job and everything when I was trying to decide if I wanted to leave and stuff, like to not have any thoughts in my mind, I was like, what? Oh my gosh, it's so quiet. And that was the first time that I was like, wow, like the way the compound effects that hypnosis has had on me, even just in a few days of like coming in and out of hypnosis, has had like this profound of a change just on like my physiology and the way that I think and on my mindset. And it's just why I loved it so much. Like by reducing all those overthinking tendencies, it's improved my anxiety and my stress levels. It's just changed my mindset so much. Like I just love the power of the mind and how, like exactly what you're saying before, how important words are and the way that you frame those words. Because if you're always talking about the things that you don't want, you're just going to keep bringing those things into your life. Like what you focus on is the life that you're going to have. And hypnosis is what started like that journey for me and that process. And what I help women with is to really overcome that stress, to like reframe their mindset into that more like positive, empowering, confident place. It helps, like hypnosis, it helps you to let go of fears and limiting beliefs, things that are holding you back. If I had actually, one of the things I didn't mention was in getting into a relationship with my partner, months before that, I saw a coach for NLP and we worked on relationships. And because I had kind of distanced myself a little bit from my dance partner, I didn't really want to hang out with him outside of our dancing because I was worried that it would lead to something. And this is what I mean. Like I was literally fully sabotaging myself to just not even be like anywhere near an opportunity. And because I was worried that if we were spending so much time together, because we were already dancing together like 4 days a week, I was like, if we also hang outside, like, he might like me and like I might like him. And, I just was so afraid of that. And I went to see this coach for NLP, for anyone who doesn't know, neuro-linguistic programming. So we were working through some of those fears that I had around relationships. And I actually like finally invited him to like hanging out outside off the back of that. And talking to him now, he's like, if that was around Christmas, he was like, if you hadn't invited me then, I actually would have just stopped asking you if we could hang out because you had said no so many times that he just like felt rejected, and he was like, I would have stopped asking. So we actually wouldn't have even been together if like I hadn't done that NLP and that work to start to overcome that fear. I absolutely hadn't overcome it like by the time that we got together, but I had let go of it enough to allow those opportunities to start to come. And with hypnosis, NLP is even a form of hypnosis, like going into those trances and things. So letting go of those fears and those limiting beliefs that are holding you back from actually achieving your goals, from doing the things that you want and having the life that you really desire. And I also love with hypnosis, one of the things is changing your state in an instant, like going from feeling disempowered, negative, just, low energy, things are just not going your way, to locking in those like powerful emotions. You can anchor them like into your body. And it means that you can go in like, I mean, honestly, you can do it in like 30 seconds, but you, even in like a couple of minutes, you can have this like fully energetic state. You can decide what emotion you want to feel. Maybe you want to feel love, you want to feel empowered, confident. Like you can anchor these feelings like into your body so you can access them at any time. And I just love that that's even a thing. Like how powerful is our mind that we are able to just access those emotions in an instant and just be like, cool, I'm about to step up on stage. I need to do a speech or something, or I need to talk up in a meeting. I want to feel confident right now. And you can just like touch that point that you anchored that into your body, and you're like, and you can feel that emotion so that you can feel confident to like go out and do that thing. Like I just love that so much.
Mm.
It helps you to get from like a stuck state to like a motivated state, or if you're procrastinating, it can help you with that. It helps improve your sleep, lose weight, take control of your life, or see choices or like parts that maybe you wouldn't have been able to unlock before. You can do that with Inception, and that's something that is a really cool tool and technique that you can use to actually really access your subconscious mind. So then you can be like, okay, well, like this thing is keeping me stuck, but actually I'm just going to move that out of the way. And I'm just so that I can like continue forward. And you can start to get these really clear steps that you need to take in order to achieve your goals. And it's also a great way to like build self-trust. And I do self-hypnosis myself. So like every night before I sleep, those like 15 minutes before you sleep are the most important, because whatever you do in that 15 minutes, that is going to be amplified like 8 times more than anything else going over and over when you're asleep. So if you can do self-hypnosis like right before you sleep, and you're saying like all of those like positive like frames of mind and mindset things like right before, then your mind is just going over that, and it's just, taking in all of the goodness, and it's just rewiring your subconscious like while you're sleeping from doing all of that. So
Mm.
yeah, hypnosis is just such a powerful tool, and I use it in my everyday life, but I also love to use it with clients and just to help people, because it's just such an awesome tool. And I think sometimes people just don't realize how easy it is to go from one state to another. And hypnosis doesn't have to be going into like a deep meditative state. It can be literally shifting from a low energy state to a high energy state.
Mm.
Okay?
Cool, right?
It's very cool.
It's amazing. Okay, so as we wrap up, I want to ask you one more question, I think. Let me have a look here. If someone's listening to this who feels stuck and powerless right now, what's one thing that they need to hear?
All right. I think one thing that is super important to know is that you have the power to change your situation and how you feel at any given time. Like you have, if you take 100% responsibility for where you're at and you ask yourself the right questions, like the first question that you can ask yourself is, what can I do to change things? Because even if it's something super small, it's showing you and it's building that trust, it's building that understanding in your mind that you have the power to change where you're currently at. And once you've identified that thing that you need to change, take action on it. Like don't just be like, what can I do to change things? And then don't do anything about it. Like you actually have to take action on it, and just don't overthink it, because the quality of your life is determined on the questions that you ask yourself. So if you're asking yourself the wrong questions, like, why me? Why did this happen? Why can't I do anything right? Like, you're like the quality of your life is just going to be so much lower, because the quality of the questions that you're asking is just really negative. But if you can ask those empowering questions to be like, what can I do to change things? Automatically, you're already in that place where you can take power, you have agency, you can take charge on your life and start to change that situation bit by bit.
Mm. Thank you. That sounds wonderful. Now, how can we get hold of you if people are listening to this and they might be able to relate through one of your stories that you've shared today, or they might be in a place where they feel really stuck and feel disempowered? Where's the best place for us to get in contact with you to connect?
Yeah, so Instagram is the best place. It's at Empowered Expansion. And I also have a website. It's currently undergoing some, it's going through some changes at the moment. But when it's back up and running, that one is www.empoweredexpansion.com.au. So yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, you can just DM me on Instagram, and I would be happy to have a chat about one-on-one coaching.
Yay. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up? Anything else that's
I don't think so. I'm so happy that I was able to come on today and just share a little bit about, I feel like it went so fast.
does,
But
doesn't it?
yeah, but I think that feeling, just having that empowered feeling like you have the power, the agency to make those decisions for your life and to take charge, like get out of your comfort zone and to like build that self-trust and confidence in yourself, is just some of the best work that you can do, because it just is applicable to every area in your life. It's not only for your job, or it's not only for your relationship. All of those tools that you gain, like they can be used for everything. So I'm just really excited to be able to spread my message and to come on here and chat to you today. So thanks so much for having me.
It's so powerful to take charge of yourself and do everything for yourself. There's no better feeling than knowing who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you'll put up with in life, what you won't put up with. That's all shifting and changing. Like, just because we have values and beliefs, they're constantly changing through the people that we meet. But how empowering is it now that you look at your life now to where you were before of, can you see that difference?
Yeah, so much. And I think that it was funny, I was actually reflecting on this the other day when for literally years, I would say all through school and for years after school, I always felt like people didn't like me. Like I always had that feeling that I was like, oh, I'm probably annoying people, or, like they probably just put up with me. And I felt like I just developed, I don't even know where I developed it from, but I felt like I just developed this belief in the fact that, yeah, people just don't really want to be around me. They just are. But I don't have that feeling now. Like I feel like because I'm coming from this way more grounded place within myself, I feel like I've done so much work. I feel like actually having the courage and putting myself out of my comfort zone has been like a huge thing for me to gain that confidence in myself, because I feel like I am just like a better person because of it. And because I've grown so much, I feel like I just don't feel like that anymore. I feel like, no, like people are talking to me because they want to talk to me. Like, oh, they missed me at that event. Like they told me that. I'm picking up the evidence that people do like me. It's like, it's exactly what I said before. If you focus on the negative things, like you're only going to see the evidence to support that. But if you are focusing on the positive things, like that's the evidence you're going to get. And that's why if you get the life that you focus on, because your brain is like, oh, well, that supports your belief. So I'm going to keep that and file that away, and that doesn't support it, so I'm just gonna throw that out, just gonna delete that information. And it makes such a difference. So yeah, the work that I have done, and to feel just so much more confident and grounded and fulfilled and purposeful, is an amazing feeling, and I just want to spread that with everyone.
Doing that today, and I think thank you for showing people what's possible. Thank you for showing people what's possible to get uncomfortable and try new things and learn new things, and it brings you to where you are today. So yeah, thank you for being really vulnerable and honest in this podcast and sharing some stories that perhaps you haven't shared out loud before. So yeah, thank you for that. And I know everyone's going to enjoy this episode.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope this conversation has added value to your self-care journey and inspired positive changes in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with a friend who might benefit from this episode. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or on your favourite podcast platform to stay up to date on future episodes. Your support means the world to me. I genuinely love hearing from you, so please take a moment to leave a review. Let me know which part of today's episode resonated with you the most. Your feedback guides the direction of this podcast, and I really appreciate each and every single one of you for being a part of this community. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, Studio Chat Podcast, or if you want to find out a bit more about my counselling private practice, head over to Instagram on self_care_studio. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep embracing the journey of self-discovery.